Hello everybody, welcome back to part 28 of 30 for 30. How are you today? It's another beautiful day here in the East Midlands in the UK. I've got the t-shirt on because it's nice and warm outside. Looking forward to getting back into the Excel VBA. If you're watching live, please let me know. Can you see me? Can you hear me? We've got some good comments in the chat already today. If you watch it on replay, you can see the live chat. There's a little symbol below the video if you want to get the thrill after the event of watching it live. But welcome. And today is actually our last technical session. And to be honest, it was going to be a really technical session, but I decided to create the code beforehand. So the people watching live, we've got a file, and if you download the download file, I did update the download file about half an hour before the live. So if you downloaded it before, then you're gonna have to download it again. And you'll find, going into the VBA editor here, you'll find the usual code that we've created. The usual code. Well, you'll find the code that we've created here. So may not be immediately familiar, but this is all created in the streams. Thank you to Frank and Phil, Jasfin, Lee, and Daniel, who have said everything is loud and clear. Down at the bottom here, down at the bottom. Whoa, I snuck this one, didn't I? So this is at the bottom of the functionality module, create category sheets, do until. So I'm going to briefly talk you through this routine. Does the same thing in a different way. Then there's one more little task I want to do, which was the column widths. And then I'm going to do an overview of the second half of the course. An overview of the second half of the course. That is the plan for the next 20 to 25 minutes or so. So how does that sound to you? Let me know in the chat. And welcome to everybody. Nawab has just tuned in at the bottom. Welcome, Nawab. Is it your first stream? Good to have you with us. Stanislav, welcome. Frank, welcome. Phil, welcome. Jasfin is here as well. Welcome. Lee Williams is here. Daniel is with us. Welcome. Welcome, Peter. Welcome, Klaus. Welcome, Ian Lamb. And Ian is worried about, I think it was Ian, is worried about 30 for 30 withdrawal symptoms on Friday when we won't have any 30 for 30. Not for the time being anyway. We'll get on to that. Paul Taylor is with us. Welcome, Paul. Alistair is with us again. Welcome, Alistair. HD is with us. Ian Box is with us, of course. Anup is with us. And have we covered everyone there? Ian Reeve completes our trio of Ians. Welcome, Ian. Ian, and I've got your email as well about the Members Monday homework. The General is here. Everybody be upstanding and salute the General. The General has made it. He's not brewing beer today. He has tuned in from Finland. Fantastic stuff. Is that everybody? If I haven't got you, then welcome. Thank you to Derek Gill as well for the membership. So welcome everybody. Let me talk you through this routine, and maybe when you look at this routine, you're going to see that, you know, I didn't want to spend the whole stream just doing technical stuff, because when it gets very technical, you know, some people do find it discouraging, but even the stuff you found technical, I know that you can get to grips with it. You're going to have to go back through it on the replay with the download file, stepping through the code with the F8 key. That is how you build these skills. But the particular approach I wanted to demo here was do until, because I wanted to demo all three looping techniques on the course. We are going to do a little overview in this stream, but what are the three looping techniques? Yeah, remember our building blocks. So we've got a for next loop, a for each loop, which loops through objects in a collection, for example, worksheets in the workbook, and then finally a do until loop. And a do until loop, we've said not absolutely necessary. You can do very well in your Excel VBA career without using do until at all, but it does offer some new opportunities, some new possibilities to the programmer in terms of the entry and exit conditions. And here I've set up the loop with this exit condition. And what does this mean in English? Well, it's saying to Excel, keep doing this, keep working down the rows. So the rows in the data file, we're going to work down. Keep working down the rows until you get to a row that is empty. And you'll see if you run this code, it does the same thing as the other routine. So just a different way to get it done. And in this particular example, this isn't a really good example of the power of a do until loop, but it's just good to have in your pocket. And an example application might be where let's say you're copying values into a data set, and you want to add up the values as you're doing that, and then you want to stop doing the copying when you get to a certain aggregate of all those values. Something like that. Sounds a bit convoluted, but that kind of more complex exit condition, that can be difficult to model using a for next and for each. And that's where do until just might help you. So good to have in your back pocket. You've got one application here. I've managed the position control slightly differently, but definitely go through that if you have time, and let me know in the chat if that makes sense. Just going through the chat now. Okay, looks pretty good. Okay, Paul says knee correct data as column 2 reads all the same as Jan. Okay, let's have a look at that. Column 2 reads all the same as Jan. What do you mean there, Paul? Not absolutely sure what you mean there. Okay, one thing we do need to do, definitely, is to sort out these column widths. I thought this was a nice little job for us to do. So how might we do it? Let's get into the VBA editor here. And in our routine, let's go back through our routine quickly. We do call this formatting routine at the end here. And what's this an example of? This is an example of modulation, because we're taking a chunk of code, putting it into a different routine. And the formatting code does do some formatting. And we can see these are formatted. We put Comic Sans in there. Yes, Comic Sans. Haven't seen that in a spreadsheet ever, I don't think. That's probably for the best. Comic Sans font is in there. So what about the column widths here? It would be good to get the column widths, well, just make them bigger so that the data displays properly. And I gave this as a bit of a homework task. Column C equals all Jan. Oh yeah. Not sure what's happened there. I must have accidentally auto-filled down at some point. That shouldn't affect the operation of the macro. I don't think any of the programming looks at this column, but well spotted. I must have accidentally double-clicked here at some point. Shouldn't affect the operation of the macro or the learning in particular, and you could just copy in the values from another file. Okay, yeah, so these column widths. So did anybody come up with some code to do this? Let me know in the chat. So one way we could do it, let's give this a go. Format sheet.range, format range. So recycling some code that I know works. And let's just drop it in here. So Control C and Control V. And then is it as easy as this? Saying, I've said that a few times in the past 30 days. Columns.column width, I think is what we want here. And then 20. Will that do the job for us? Just looking at this syntax, does it look good enough? I think it looks good enough. I'm going to hit the F5 key here. So I clicked in this routine, then hit the F5 key. You could hit the play button. So the code is run now. I'm going to one of the category sheets, and we can see, yeah, we've got some proper sizing here. So what if we were to say we only want to resize column C? Is that possible? We only want to resize column C, and we don't want to have a hard-coded reference in here. So we don't want to say, you know, actually use the letter C in the coding. That would be a hard-coded reference. Can we do this? Let's try this. So 1 and 1 here. Okay, so just put a dot cells little construct in here. So this is another application of dot cells. So dot cells, usually we've seen it on a worksheet, haven't we? Where we've said, you know, A1 is 1 row down, 1 column across. We've seen that application. You can apply dot cells to within a given range. So we've given a range here, and then dot cells now. This isn't going to be cell A1. This is going to be the first cell in the data range as defined previously. So if this works, this should resize only the first column. What do we think? Is this going to work? Not sure. Not sure. Right. Let's run the routine here. Analyze. Okay, it does seem to have worked. And we can see, yeah, so we've managed to resize just one column there. Yeah, so you could go ahead, resize this column as well. Or there might be good auto fit options as well. Yeah, Ian says, why not use auto fit? Lots of people in the chat saying use auto fit. Perfectly possible to use auto fit. I don't use auto fit because I am a pedant. I am a programming pedant. And when I'm sizing columns in spreadsheets, I always use whoops, just lost Excel. Come back, please, Excel. What's happened? Unhide. There we go. Have you ever done that in Excel? So if you go Alt W and H, Excel is going to disappear. Alt W H, and then if you go Alt W U, you can bring back Excel. If that ever happens to you when you happen to be doing a live stream, like it just happened to me. So yeah, when I'm sizing columns, I like to use a consistent unit. Okay, so for example, I'll use 6, 12, and 24, for example. So a consistent unit and then multiples of that unit. So 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 4 is 24. That helps give a consistent look across the sheets. Yeah, I'd rather have a small gap in a cell, so it's not absolutely fitting the data, but have a consistent unit across sheets and across a file. That's why I don't like autofit, because I don't know exactly what the sizing is going to go to on the column there. If you'd like to have more, if you're interested in that kind of thing, that kind of presentational thing, go to our Excel dashboard for beginners series, Excel dashboards for beginners. I've got a video which is 17 tips for better Excel dashboards, where I talk about that kind of presentational matter. Good. So I think we've managed to complete that. Yep. Okay. Ian's come up. Ian Reeve in the chat. Yeah, with a good solution for getting the month there, I think. Yeah, people call me OCD in the chat. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 So Lee's saying, for example, yeah, if you have a column like this column here, column A for me is always 3. Alt HOW 3. Yeah, is always column width 3. So that's the same thing. If you have spacer columns in your data for whatever reason, or on the spreadsheet, I bet this is 3 as well. Alt HOW 3. Yeah, so my spacer columns are always 3 as well. So it sounds pedantic, but I think subconsciously when the user sees it and sees this consistent spacing, I think that's kind of playing into your hands. That's giving them confidence in you as a coder. Right, I do need to go ahead and the next stream. We're going to deal with, resize this a bit. Yeah, in the next stream, we're going to deal with some applications. You know, because the idea is I give you some applications, and then it can inspire you, you know, to try to get these things done yourself. Just doing a bit of resizing here. Just bear with me a second, please. There we go. That's a bit better, I think. There we go, something like that. Yep. Yeah, the idea being, you know, that you see some of my applications, you know, you think, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could do this. So that's what we're going to do in the next stream, go through some applications. Then the final stream is a bit of a 30 for 30 celebration stream. I'm going to go through some of the best comments I've had and kind of explain them, why I think they're good comments. Happy to answer your questions as well. So any particular questions you've got about the program, about Excel more generally, using Excel in your career, any questions about how I do YouTube and stuff, very happy to look through those as well. So let's move on to video. Here we are. Yep. So video 15, of course, was our halfway stream. So video 15, I did an overview of the first half of the course, and the overall structure, which kind of emerged as we went through the program. You know, I didn't try to over plan. I didn't plan at all the program, but sometimes I find that's the best way, and things can emerge as you go on and you have flexibility to respond to ideas and stuff. The first half of the program was techniques. So learning techniques just in isolation, little examples. I think for the first half of the program, we didn't use any download files at all. So really focusing on just learning those techniques in a really easy to understand context. Welcome Shiva, just checking into the chat. Good to have you with us. Whereas the second half of the program was to do with applications. And you'll remember in session 16, we got our briefing. I've heard you're now the Excel guy. You've got to be the Excel guy. Remember, we got this briefing, and this has shaped the second half of the program. We've tried to respond to this client briefing. Never got around to the fuel vouchers, right, by the way, in the fourth paragraph there. So maybe we could do that in some other time. Can't give anything away now. Some other time we could look at doing that. So the second half of the program is to do with application and really the most critical skill, And as I've said so many times in 30 for 30, lots of people obsessing about techniques. How do I do this technique in Excel? How do I do that technique in Excel? The techniques mean nothing if you can't get the applications right. The toolkit you need that you now have with your building blocks, very simple: interacting with cells, interacting with variables, conditional statements, loops, and position control. That's all you need. Don't obsess about the techniques, obsess about the applications. That's the critical skill. It's only a relatively small number of people who can actually apply those techniques in a powerful way using Excel VBA. So that's what we did anyway. We got our briefing, and then we did our all-important planning and conceptualization. How many times have I said on the program? So when you've got a new problem to work with, you've got to resist the temptation just to jump into the code. If we've got a new problem, we want to get into planning and conceptualization. I always say the worst thing you can do is open the VBA editor, pen and paper. Seriously, pen and paper is a great medium to get started with. Walking around the room and talking it out to yourself or somebody else if they'll listen. This is also a good thing to do. And then eventually, only after you've done a bit of that, talking through it, get into the VBA editor and then write out how it should work using that inverted comma, writing it out how it should work, and then increasing the level of granularity, the level of detail, so that eventually each comment that you put in equates to a particular instruction. So this gives us a kind of blueprint for our programming. And as I said, if you can do this really well, then each line of code will equate to a single comment. It's a process of translating that blueprint into the technical stuff. This is one of the main things people miss. If you don't do this, you are going to have problems because you're always going to be struggling with the technical stuff. Well, you think you're struggling with the technical stuff, you're actually struggling with a lack of planning, a lack of conceptualization. So should always be the first thing you're doing, planning and conceptualization. And then for the next few streams, firstly, we dealt with the problem of data sets, like really common in Excel. You've got to have an approach for dealing with changing data sets. We can't really say to customers, you can't really say to yourself or whoever you're working with, oh, this is going to work as long as you don't change the data, as long as you don't add data or remove data. These days, it's not really going to work. So we need a way to work with dynamic data sets. And we looked at things like .xl down, .cells we've looked at going to the bottom of the spreadsheet using rows.count, coming back up in order to establish the size of a database. So continuing the application by looping through a range of cells here. So getting our loop working and then establishing if a sheet name already exists in the file. So what kind of loop would that be? And here's where those translation muscles will kind of kick in. If somebody says to you, listen, I need to understand if this sheet name appears in the file, then Can you go into your toolkit quickly and understand what you would need? Well, you'd need a for each loop. One way to do it anyway is using a for each loop to loop through all of the objects in a collection, loop through all of the worksheets in the worksheets collection, and just find if a particular name exists in the file. So that's what we did in video 18, video 19. Okay, we dealt with dealing with the code. Okay, so we've done our planning and conceptualization. We put a loop in, and then we're thinking, oh, I don't know how to do all this code. Yeah, I get this feeling all the time now. So we think about different sources of code. Will it be recycled? And recycled could be from one of your other files. I'd recommend having a kind of VBA reference file. So have one file, store all of your useful routines that could be reused. So for example, some nice position control using .xl down, different examples of loops, nice message boxes, nice select case conditional statements, and have your Excel VBA reference file. You can recycle code from there. You can recycle code from the internet, of course. That always comes with a health warning. Code from the internet can be over elaborate. It can include constructs that you don't need for your purpose. So, be critical when you're using code from the internet. And then we've got recorded code using the macro recorder. What was it? A couple of streams ago, we used the macro recorder to record some formatting code. And then finally, we've got organic code. So as you go through your career, your vocabulary is going to increase, and more you're going to know how to write the code to get particular jobs done. So yeah, generating the code is it going to be recycled, recorded, or organic? Video 20, deleting sheets. So a typical Excel VBA task, again, we're on applications. Knowing how to delete sheets is just one of those core techniques. Yeah, so being able to do it. How do you do it? Going into the toolkit. Well, we're working with sheets, so let's do a for each loop through all the objects in the collection, and let's see if we can get that done that way. So that's what we did in video 20. God, this is good stuff, guys. I've got to say, I know I wrote all this, but this covers so much ground. Seriously. How to transfer data onto each sheet. Yeah, so again, we've got to solve a problem here because we don't know how much data is on these sheets. Yeah, so again, we need some dynamic position control. And we used, what did we use for this exactly? Got the mechanism here. Yep, so once again, .end Excel down. So there's an example construct that could be in your Excel VBA reference file. We use that to establish position on those data sheets in a dynamic way. Then in 22, we looked at moving data onto destination sheets. And can you remember what kind of went wrong at this point? And we looked at different approaches. So the approach that was inefficient was copy pasting, of course. And, it surprised me how inefficient it was. I've been learning as I've been delivering this course, you never stop learning with coding with Excel VBA. And we found that the copy paste wasn't very efficient. So we looked at other possible approaches, and we had some good solutions. In the end, we went for something more like this, which is looks complicated, but is just an A equals B. Yeah, a very simple operation here. This is much more efficient, an order of magnitude more efficient than doing that copy paste. So copy paste, can be useful, particularly useful where we do paste special values or paste special formats. Very useful for that, but can also slow things down. Yeah, so once again, we've got multiple possible approaches. A really proficient programmer can appreciate the pros and cons of each. Some people asking what's next after 30 for 30. We'll talk about that in the last stream, guys. I'll put that as a question in the last stream. We'll talk about that amongst other things. So 23, lacking efficiency and slickness. Yeah, so if you want a really happy customer, you want to deliver an efficient and slick product file. Yeah, I like this word slick. Should be fast. Should be efficient. It shouldn't be a case of clicking and waiting. Is it working? Is it not working? There's some stuff flashing. I don't know what's going on. It should be click, bang, 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 done. Message box, this is done. So how do you create slickness in the programming? In this video and in other videos towards the end of the series, we looked at how to speed up code, how to make it efficient, how to make it look really nice to your customer. Don't forget to put the icing on the cake. Just because it's working for you, you're a programmer now. Yeah, you can handle a lot of things your customer can't. So make sure you're taking that extra time, improving the efficiency as far as you can, doing things like putting message boxes in to say the macro has now finished. People don't assume people are going to be used to macros. Plenty of people have never seen a macro run before, so you got to hold their hand through it. Tell them when it's finished. Even better, give them a bit of informative information. Information's always informative. Tell them something. Give them a mini report in that message box. Slick code. That's what we're looking for. Video 24, custom sort. So another typical VBA task, and particularly relevant to sorting because it's very clicky. Working with the dialog box, I've found over the years customers have loved having these custom sort buttons in their files. You could equally apply to filtering as well. If you wanted to filter out entries for whatever reason, just having a button to do that, I've found they're really popular with customers, and it's a great opportunity to practice all the techniques that we've learned. So again, here we're completing this sort function. So we put this mechanism in where the customer was able to choose sort by category. I love this stuff. This is good stuff. So I can just hit date and sort, and you can see the efficiency there. You know, it's not super slick. It's slick enough. You know, I'd like a little message box after that. I'd like to get rid of that screen flash as well, which seems to have gone away now anyway. But yeah, that's slick and powerful code. That custom sort, you know, a really good example of all of our techniques coming together to synergize and to create poetry in motion, to create beauty in Excel. And then we got on to formatting. Yeah, the task we've only just finished recently. So again, got to know how to present stuff properly. You don't want to be manually formatting or asking your customer to do that. So we looked at how to do that, and that drew on a lot of different skills. You know, let's look at that formatting macro quickly, which is just here. Yeah, we had a loop here, a conditional statement here, another conditional statement here. Then we had some kind of dynamic range definition here, our paste special formats code here. So yeah, all really good stuff. 27, we also, we're talking about formatting again, and 28 is what we're doing today. What would happen if I clicked and played this now? That would be some kind of meta level madness. If I actually watched the live stream, that would create an annoying audio loop. So that completes our little summary of the whole program. You know, we did a summary in video 15. We summarized all the techniques, and then I've just gone through the second half of the course, how we went about doing the applications, what are the kind of things you've got to look out for when you're doing these applications. So I hope that's provided some value for you. You know, one thing I would say, there'll be people at different levels in the chat. So don't be discouraged when we've got people saying, oh, I've managed to do it all, I've sent you the file, if you yourself haven't managed to do it all. You know, I think I've said in this program, I know what it's like to be bottom of the class. When I started Excel, I was bottom of the class. So don't compare yourselves to other people. There's an advantage to feeling like you're bottom of the class because it means you're very deliberate about your learning. Yeah, it means you take the time to learn the fundamentals properly. That builds an epic foundation. Yeah, and it will take time, but over time you'll start reaping the benefits of that. You'll get a massive return on your investment. So if towards the end you're like, oh, I've lost it a bit, you know, I'm just tuning in to hang out, that's great, just tuning in to hang out. But if you feel that you've lost the thread a bit, don't worry. Take the time. You know, I'll go back to the first video. If you've got the time, go back to the first video, rebuild that foundation. You know, with Excel VBA, the only thing that matters at the end of the day, when you boil it down, is your attitude. Yeah, if you can keep coming back for more, if you've got a good attitude to learning, if you can be slow and steady and deliberate and patient when you need to be, then the sky really is the limit for your Excel VBA learning. Good. So let me get into the chat. So sorry, I've been ignoring the chat a bit, but I'll get into the chat and see if we've got any particular questions here. Yeah, Ian, bit of a technical question, but Ian Box, is it best to use string to dim ranges rather than range? I think I spoke about this on one of the streams, but when we have a range variable here or a string variable, yep. So here I've got format range as string. I prefer string because it means we don't have to use this set syntax. Okay. If we have an object variable, then you have to use set. Okay. And I find particularly for teaching purposes, students are like, why do we have to use set now? We haven't used set before. Okay. So I prefer to use a string and just save the name and then work that into the syntax some other way. Here we're talking about a range, but I would apply the same approach for a worksheet. But it works both ways. You'll see plenty of people online using an object variable to do the same thing, but hopefully you understand my particular choice. Paul says, do you ever argue with yourself? I think I do. I certainly argue with the dog. The dog's usually here listening to me go on, and we have little conversations, definitely. Phil says that's how I construct complex formulas. So hopefully you are tapping into something I said there, Phil. Yeah, Paul says, yeah, Jasmine says should be ROR, yeah, recycled organic and recorded code, of course, the three sources of code. Very good. Paul says not 60 for 60. Well, let's on Thursday when we have the final stream, let's talk about the different. Let's talk about the options we might have going forward. Anup says, can you suggest some good online reading for VBA? So let me know in the chat. What textbooks have you used for VBA? I've never used a textbook to learn VBA, so I can't, with confidence recommend one because I haven't used one myself. What I would say, Anup, is there's no point reading about VBA, really. No point reading about VBA. VBA is a skill, so you've got to be doing it. That's the only way to really get better. So obviously I'd recommend our videos. I've got 200 videos online. A lot of them come with download files where I'm working through real world tasks. So that's what I recommend as opposed to just reading about it. Any other questions here? Phil says, is it possible to show time left on a macro? Jorgen says a progress indicator, maybe. Yes, progress bars are possible. I'm trying to think on the channel, have I got a video about this? I don't think I have, but I do recommend progress bars. And let me see if we can just show you in Excel here quickly. So can you see down in the bottom left, like currently it says accessibility good to go. Now you can change the message here. I'm trying to remember what the code is. I think it's status. It's application.status or something like that. But you can change what code appears here. So in some of my routines, and I've been using this kind of more recently in my career, I've updated this to say, 50% done, 75% done, 45 of 1,000 records checked. Yeah, so you could check this. I think it's application.status bar, I think is what it is. Your other option is to use a user form to build a progress bar. So check out our series Excel user forms for beginners, and you can create a customized progress bar there. Again, that's some nice icing on the cake. It shouldn't be the first thing you do, but if everything's working, your client's enjoying it, putting a progress bar in, that's an indicator of slickness for me. And customers tend to really like that. Would help if a macro is running slow. Yeah, if a macro is running slow, application.screen updating, switch that off so the screen isn't updating. Then think about, do you need calculation on or not? Yeah. So by calculation, let's go to the desktop view quickly here. So if you go to formulas, and then calculation options here, you can switch calculation to manual. Handle this with care. That means that usually when you put something in a cell, all of Excel's formulae update. Yeah, because it's usually automatic calculation. That's the default setting. If you set this to manual, Excel won't update the formulae when a change is made in the workbook. Yeah. That could mess you up if formulae are playing a role in your macro. Okay, if they're not, you can temporarily switch formulae off. Make sure you switch them back on again, or you could have some very confused customers. That's another way to really speed up code execution. What else slows down code execution? Well, we saw copy pasting. Copy pasting really can slow down code execution. You know, macros shouldn't really take a long time. If they are taking a long time and doing a lot of work, and I've got macros that do huge amounts of work, optimizations, then you do need some kind of progress bar. Another thing is good communication with the user. So message boxes. What about a yes/no message box at the beginning to say, this macro will take a while. Are you sure you want to start? You know, you can manage the expectations at the beginning of the macro. Let's see, any other questions here? Phil says he loves VBA. Good stuff, Phil. Anut says you've thrown light on the right path to approach with VBA. Thank you, Anut. Really good to hear. Yeah, Peter says he's gone back to 17. So Peter has replayed, you know, from part 17. A great idea. Excellent idea. You know, give you another chance to absorb it all. I think the difficulty did go up quite steeply from like 15 to 20 to 22. So, you know, take your time. Lee says, love VBA. For me, it's about learning on the job. Yeah, it is for everybody, almost everybody. Keep going over and over things until it clicks. Absolutely. Always learning and reviewing skills constantly. Yep, 100%. Lee says he's got a VBA for dummies, more for reference. Yeah. Yeah, Gary Wilson, I've replayed some of the episodes a few times to get a better understanding. Yep, absolutely. Pete says VBA is like learning modern jive. Feel like an idiot for a while, then begin to master it. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, people do feel silly when they don't get it right, VBA. But, you know, I always say when you were a child and you were learning to walk, you know, you didn't feel silly when you fell over. Well, maybe you cried a couple of times, you know, but you didn't give up. You know, when you first learned to ride a bike, you know, you didn't give up when it went wrong. So at some point, as we grow up, we get nervous about learning. You know, we get anxious about learning, and being able to reconnect with that kind of childlike playfulness, you know, and lack of fear about learning, you know, I think that's so important, you know, in life generally, not just professionally. You know, no, if you're on your computer at home in your office, you know, nobody cares if you mess it up. You've got to rationalize it that way. You know, nobody knows, nobody cares. You're just dealing with yourself, really. So try to like, don't be scared of getting it wrong. Seriously. Sridhar says how to delete contents of merged cells. Don't merge the cells in the first place. That's my advice, Sridhar. Okay, can you unmerge the cells in VBA before you delete the contents? Merged cells are often problematic, so I recommend minimizing them as far as you can. Okay, good. I think that's all the questions. Good. Okay, yeah, Paul, absolutely. Nice little finish here. It's better to try and fail than fail to try. Very good. Yep, love that quote. So just quickly remember, if you are worried about 30 for 30 withdrawal symptoms, you can get the weekly live stream with me. Join our Members Monday community. Get access to the Facebook page, the Members Monday content navigator, get instant access to the previous live streams. So 21-hour live streams, 20 hours of content. You're going to get this if you sign up to Members Monday. So you click join below this video, get all the information about that. I'd love to see you there in Members Monday. So tomorrow, guys, I'm going to do a little presentation, talk about 2 or 3 real life applications and the techniques I used, try to inspire you to get Excel VBA going in your work. Okay, guys, that's all for today. Take care of yourself. We've got 2 more streams. Looking forward to it. Get your questions into me. In the last stream, I'll answer all of your questions. And until tomorrow, guys, take care. See you at 4 o'clock tomorrow, UK time. See you then.